Mom, the kids are fighting. Sony Mini-LED sibling battle. Sony Bravia 5 versus the Sony Bravia 7, 75 inches. Up next.
I've seen things people wouldn't believe.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for joining me for this sibling rivalry battle among Sony 75-inch mini LEDs. We have the Sony Bravia 5 and the Sony Bravia 7. The Bravia 5 is the successor to the very popular X90 series. The Bravia 7 carries over from last year along with the flagship Bravia 9. Sibling comparisons are my favorite. They are a bit easier to do because you do have the same menus, the same processor. However, they are also fascinating to see how close or how far apart these two amazing TVs are. I think you'll be surprised by how close the Bravia 5 is to the Bravia 7, but it's the little nuances that an enthusiast will really notice in terms of differences. I can't wait to show you. Without further ado, let's check out the Sony Bravia 5 versus the Sony Bravia 7. Thank you so much for watching. All right, guys, what differences did you see? Let's take a look at the build quality and the design. The differences between the two is you have a silver small bezel on the Bravia 7 and a silver small bezel on the Bravia 5. The feet are flat on both to make room for a sound bar. We have it in the higher position. And on the new Bravia 5, the feet are flat black, but they have the round finish instead of the more pointy finish on the Bravia 7. So the theme for the Bravia 7 is more of a gray finish and aesthetic, where the Bravia 5 has more of a black accent to it. If you look over, you see the more silver, higher end looking side of the Bravia 7. And again, the aesthetic and the accents of the Bravia 5 are more black. I actually prefer the finish on the Bravia 5 more. And the Bravia 5's build quality is much better than how the X90 series started many years ago. So in terms of build quality and design, they are very similar. On the Bravia 7, you do have two different stand positions, narrow and out wide. They both have a higher and low stand position. You do get that extra wide stand if you want. There's a different screen reflection handling abilities. They are actually almost exactly the same. The back of the panels are basically identical. Both have 4 HDMI. 2 are HDMI 2.1, capable of 4K 120. Now we're in a very bright room to show you the reflection handling of both, and they are basically identical. You have that semi-gloss. It does a decent job with reflections, and both TVs are more than bright enough to compensate for it. I do have us in an all black screen just to show you the reflections and how close they are. Now I want to show you the high stand position and why we have it like that. Here's the theater bar 9 on the Sony Bravia 5, just to show you how it lines up. If you're considering the X90L and the TVs from that generation, they had a more bulky stand where the soundbar wouldn't easily lay on top of it. I'll show you my A80L 83-inch OLED in the other studio behind me in a second to show you what I mean. See how beautifully that lines up with the theater bar 9? Here on my A80L, you can see the more bulkier legs. So if you're considering an X90L, this is part of the difference in the aesthetics. The bar 9 lays perfectly on the Bravia 5 and Bravia 7's flat feet, not so much on the bulkier A80L. Let's look at performance in a very bright room. Now, in fairness, the Bravia 5 is going to catch that window to the right, but the sun is hitting them both the same. If you're moving over to the Bravia 7, you would see that window as well, but where the camera is positioned. So their anti-glare or reflection handling is identical. Again, I'm not a huge fan of semi-gloss TVs and just how they look, but they both do a fine job of reflection handling, and they are more than bright enough. Now I want to touch on brightness right as we shut off the lights, and there's a lot of talk about the Bravia 5 not being very bright, yet you see it sitting here against the Sony Bravia 7, and the brightness is very close. You'll see it pull away in certain scenes, but a lot of the talk about the Bravia 5 and lacking brightness, much like the Bravia 8 Mark II QD OLED, is based on one preset in SDR, and that's the professional preset. We'll show you that later on. And why that bothers me is some of you are having to buy TVs from last year or the year before because you feel they're going to be too dim based on the professional preset in SDR and not any of the other presets which are very bright, which you're seeing here. Even in professional and HDR, the image is bright and absolutely beautiful on both TVs. Now for me, the Bravia 5 is a good deal better than the X90 series. I've been reviewing the X90 series since the X90J, K, and L. The Bravia 5 for me is brighter and has much better local dimming. And I wouldn't think the X90L would be this close to the Bravia 7. So the Bravia 5 for me is a big step. Obviously here you can see that in local dimming, which I actually prefer on the Bravia 5 over the Bravia 7. The weakness for the X90 series was its local dimming. It had very few local dimming zones. It did handle those zones excellently, but it lacked them. Bravia 5 looks great. Here, let's go over the picture preset overview. This is where I'll just show you how each TV looks in the different presets. For me, the manufacturer's presets are very important as it is their signature, and I love seeing these two side by side to see how they handle the different presets going from Vivid all the way down to the IMAX Enhanced preset. You can see the differences in brightness as we go from Vivid and work our way down. The TV will ship in the standard preset. Sony is great for having that set it and forget it mentality, meaning out of the box, both TVs will look amazing and they both ship in the standard preset. Now, please let me know in the comments the differences you are seeing throughout the video so far. Now, I'll tell you that between the two, the Bravia 7 and the Bravia 5, the Bravia 7 is the brighter TV with the higher zone count. It also has a different triluminous color profile, which really comes down to quantum dots. And to my knowledge, the Bravia 5 and the X90 series before it don't really have quantum dots. And what's interesting is there are times where the color differences are very noticeable in terms of richness and depth for the Bravia 7. However, there are quite a few times in my time filming this video and throughout the scenes I've picked for you guys where I actually prefer the look and the color of the Bravia 5. Now, picking scenes from our good friend Jennifer Gala well above 2000 nits, I want you to really see the differences, and you're going to see them in this shot right here. There's a sheen on the Bravia 7 that's missing on the Bravia 5. Now, will you see this in real content? Chances are you won't. I'll show you some paused movies later in the video. But what I'm trying to do is not make them look the same. They are the same manufacturer. The presets are exactly the same. They're set up exactly the same. But I'm pushing them both to show you the differences between the two and where the money is being spent and if it's worth it for you to go with one over the other. Now we're in the Vivid preset, really pushing the TVs hard, again at about 3,000 nits. You tell me the differences that you see and if you think it's worth right now the $200 to $300 price difference between the Bravia 5 and the Bravia 7. Now for me, the color differences are obvious and there is much greater saturation on the Bravia 7. However, I want to ask you guys, which do you actually prefer? A lot of times we talk about more color and more saturation. I find many people in the comments will actually prefer the TV that looks more natural or is more natural to their eyes. Which of those do you feel has that look here among the Bravia 5 and the Bravia 7? A very special shout out to the one and only Jennifer Gala and her second channel, HDR SUPER CHANNEL. The majority of the content you're seeing within this video and intro is from those two channels. Check the description below for links to both channels and consider becoming a Patreon member to Jennifer's main channel to be able to enjoy all this amazing content on your next TV. Thank you so much, Jen. Now let's move into some local dimming, and this is where things really get interesting. The Bravia 7, having the different tri-luminous profile, does have a cooler look to it, especially on camera. Now, even though it does have a higher zone count and it is brighter, the local dimming is excellent on both, especially when you're dead center. However, the Bravia 5 does have better viewing angles in regards to local dimming, not in regards to color, but in regards to local dimming. In our local dimming drip, you can see that both remain very bright. Obviously, the Bravia 7 is a good deal brighter. Now, that brightness does come at a cost of the blooming you'll see around the edges. Sony does allow for a bit more blooming due to always wanting the highest amount of shadow detail possible. Now from dead center, they both look amazing. Now off angle, I'm over to the left of the Bravia 7. Everything looks good. There is a bit of haloing there. Off angle more, there's a bit more. Moving over to the Bravia 5, this is where the real improvement over the X90L shows up. Almost nothing, little bit of haloing, while still being very bright. Now moving over to the Bravia 7, you can see here on the right hand side, that's where the glowing shows up and up and above. As we pull away, it disappears, but it does show up more on the Bravia 7. This was the weakness of the Bravia 7's viewing angles, not in regards to color, but local dimming. Much better on the Bravia 5. The Bravia 5, again, not as bright, but it is improved over the X90L and in here over the Bravia 7. Now let's also do our black bar test, but I think manufacturers have found a way to just trick the world with black bars because they all look great in regards to mini LEDs. But again, dead center, the Bravia 5 here also looks great. Some very small haloing at the bottom, as you can see there. Nothing on the top, and then the Bravia 7, even here on the right hand side, you can see the little bit of blooming show up. Nothing on the top, and a bit more on the bottom, especially the bottom of the frame. But they both look great. Again, dead center. They both are excellent in regards to local dimming. Hey, what's up guys? It's me again. I'm Brian. I am the face of this channel and the creator of this channel. The reason why I'm jumping in here in the middle of this video is studies show that you're gonna enjoy the content more if you see the creator talking more. While I'm in the intro, I have no desire to be in the video any more than that. My goal here, and the reason why these videos are so long, is I do have the luxury of having the product. I also have the luxury of being able to show you these TVs uninterrupted in all kinds of different content. And I really want to be able to show you the product more than show you myself. No desire to be in the videos more than this, which is why I'm jumping in the middle. If I'm doing a comparison, you'll very rarely see two TVs compared this long and this many different types of footage. If you're looking at a singular review, I want to be able to show you the TV as much as possible, uninterrupted versus jump cutting back to me. There's no reason to really see me. However, if you do want to see me, here I am. Hello. let's get back to the video. Oh, thank you for watching. Thank you, Brian. I actually get asked about that quite a bit, why I'm not in the videos more, but I want to show you what you're seeing here. You're seeing 1,000 nits on the Bravia 7 and the Bravia 5, and then you're going to see us go to 2,000 nits. I want to be able to really show you the TVs. The TVs are the star of the channel, not me. And when I watch content on technology, I want to see the product. I want to see the differences, especially with TV technology, as it is a visual technology. Here we are at 4,000 nits. Tell me the differences that you see. And my goal is to show you these TVs in a way that no one else can. I'm showing you what you're really going to see at home. And though I'm using very high-end content from Jennifer Gala that really pushes these TVs, you're not going to see this in the store. In store, the TVs will look nothing like this. They'll be in vivid. You'll see reflections everywhere, and the TVs will be up in the air or on the floor. This way you get to really see what you'll see if you buy them, and you'll see the differences between the two. That is very important to me and what I'm trying to do in these videos. Let's move into some real HDR footage of one of the greatest movies of all time, The Thing. And this is where the brightness on the Bravia 7 will show up in the specular highlights, though the Bravia 5, having not as bright specular highlights, it does look brighter. So which of these two images do you prefer? The Thing, one of my favorite movies of all time. Let's move into Pacific Rim and in SDR, and I'm going to show you that the SDR brightness on the Bravia 7 and the Bravia 5 is excellent. However, Sony does have this weird quirk where if they're in the professional preset, which is the most accurate, the brightness drops considerably, and it can't be on purpose. Here we are in the cinema preset, and the SDR brightness is excellent on the Bravia 5 and the Bravia 7. We're going to walk through this together. You can see the brightness is at 35. Again, we're not in HDR. Move up to standard, the brightness is at 35, and in vivid, the brightness is at max. These are not locked, by the way. We move down to professional. The brightness on the 7 is 4, and the brightness on the Bravia 5 is 3. This is why these TVs have been getting crushed this year, especially the Bravia 8 Mark II, and having poor SDR brightness. There's something that they're not doing on Sony's side, where their presets are programmed to have 4 and 3. That cannot be right. But I will show you that if you move in, because we're not in HDR, to the picture menu, you can easily raise the brightness up even just a few notches, and it makes all the difference. Now, I don't know who watches football in filmmaker mode, but for those of you that want the most accurate preset in SDR, this is why these TVs have been getting slammed all year long for not being bright overall. It's really just this one preset, and it's in SDR. This is why people aren't choosing these TVs this year when the other SDR presets are more than bright enough. Let's move into our Colombo upscaling, and both TVs look amazing in upscaling. They both share the same XR cognitive processor. You can see how they do look different in terms of color, but as far as how both TVs look in content, you tell me what the differences are. Let's move into Dolby Vision and Godzilla -1 on Netflix. Now here we are in Dolby Vision. What are you guys seeing as far as the differences? For me, the Bravia 7 has brighter specular highlights. The flame in Godzilla's mouth is a tad brighter and more vibrant. However, the image on the Bravia 5 is brighter overall. So which do you really prefer? And this comparison is also to show you why numbers and metrics don't always show up on screen. It's really on which do you prefer, which one do you look at and say, I like better using your eyes versus, hey, just the numbers. One can be brighter on paper, but in real content, your eye will see the other as brighter or even more natural. Let's move into some gaming on the PS5 Pro. Now for me, this is where I expected the Bravia 7 to really pull away, and it really didn't. If you look at the differences in the game modes, it really comes into the differences in color. The specular highlights are very similar, and Sony's game mode is absolutely gorgeous on all of their TVs. And the one knock I do have for Sony in their game modes is you can't really change them much. I will tell you on the Bravia 5, reality creation seems to be grayed out, so that might not be a feature that's available. That is available on the Bravia 7. If that over sharpening or being able to use reality creation is important, definitely go for the Bravia 7. As I mentioned earlier, there are 4 HDMI ports. 2 are HDMI 2.1 capable of 4K 120. That said, they are both excellent gaming TVs for both console and PC. What are your thoughts on how they look and the differences between the two? Now, at the time of this video, the price differences between the Bravia 5 and the Bravia 7 average between $200 and $300. When you get up to the 85-inch sizes, it pulls away. It's about $500 to $600 between the Bravia 7 and the Bravia 5. Now, both models come in a 55, 65, 75, and 85. The Bravia 5 has a 98-inch version, which is excellent. Which is why this video was designed to have you make a choice between these two and if the money is worth the difference in price. Should you put that money towards a soundbar or maybe a larger Bravia 5 over a Bravia 7? I also want to talk about obsolescence. The Bravia 7 is last year's model and it carries over to this year. And I do believe the Bravia 5 will do the same, where the X90L carried over for almost 3 years and is still available. I think when you buy a Sony TV, this is what they're looking for in the future, is you don't have to worry about buying, say, the Bravia 5 now towards the end of the year, and then all of a sudden it's going to be replaced by a Bravia 6. So I think Sony's really changing things with that plan. You kind of get more time where your TV is relevant. Now, in closing, I'll never make the decision for you. What do you guys really think the differences are between the Bravia 7 and the Bravia 5? Is the price difference worth the differences that you saw on camera? Were the brightness differences or the color differences or the difference in local dimming worth it to you? Was that a vast enough difference to say, I'm going to go for the Bravia 7, maybe even the Bravia 9? That's why I feel like these videos are very important and why showing you the TVs as much as I possibly can matters. Because it certainly matters to me when I'm looking at image quality and trying to judge it. And as I've mentioned, you're never going to see these side by side in store this way, in a dark room, in a bright room, with content that really pushes them. So please let me know what you think in the comments. I am Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. Love you guys. Take care.
It's better to burn out than to fade away. There can be only one.